Unit 18. Gateway. People often assume that synthetic food ingredients are more harmful than natural ones, but this is not always the case. Typically, synthetic ingredients can be made in a precisely controlled fashion and have well-defined compositions and properties, allowing careful evaluation of their potential toxicity. On the other hand, natural ingredients often vary appreciably in their composition and properties, depending on their origin, the time of year they were harvested, the climate they experienced throughout their lifetime, the soil quality, and how they were isolated and stored. These variations can make testing their safety extremely difficult. One is never sure about the potential toxicity of minor components that may vary from time to time. In some cases, a natural food component has been consumed for hundreds or thousands of years without causing any obvious health problems and can therefore be assumed to be safe. However, one must still be very careful. The controllability of the production process for synthetic food ingredients and the variability of natural food ingredients may challenge people's commonly held assumption that the natural ingredients are more secure. Exercises. Number 1. Historically, the worst times for labor have been those characterized by both worker-replacing technological change and slow productivity growth. If AI technologies turn out to be as brilliant as some of us think, we should be more optimistic about the long run. As Darren Acemoglu and Pascual Restrepo have pointed out, brilliant technologies are much preferable for labor to mediocre ones, because as they make us richer, they create more demand for other goods and services produced by humans. Indeed, wages grew faster between 1995 and 2000, when computers prompted a brief productivity boom, than in the preceding and succeeding years. But while high productivity growth is always preferable to slow growth, growth in wages may fall behind that in productivity if technology is of the replacing sort, and some workers might see their incomes vanish in the process, even as new jobs are created elsewhere in the economy. That is what has happened in recent years, and it is also what happened during the classic years of industrialization. Technological advancements can benefit workers in the long run by increasing the demand for goods and services. But if this is a substitution for human labor, as it has ever been, some people may lose their jobs even though new jobs are created. Number 2. The basic reason for the increasing opportunity cost is that some resources and skills cannot be easily adapted from their current uses to alternative uses. And the more you produce of one good, the more you are forced to employ inputs that are relatively more suitable for producing other goods. For example, at low levels of food output, additional increases in food output can be obtained easily by switching relatively low-skilled carpenters from making shelters to producing food. However, to get even more food output, workers who are less well-suited or appropriate for producing food, i.e., they are better adapted to making shelters, must be released from shelter, making to increase food output. For example, a skilled carpenter may be an expert at making shelters, but a very bad farmer because he lacks the training and skills necessary in that occupation. So using the skilled carpenter to farm results in a relatively greater opportunity cost than using the unskilled carpenter to farm. The production of additional units of food becomes increasingly costly as progressively lower skilled farmers but good carpenters convert to farming. Opportunity cost increases when it's challenging to shift resources and skills to new uses, and producing more of a good requires using inputs that are more appropriate for other goods. Number 3. As farming societies grew more productive and captured more energy from their environments, energy appeared to be scarcer and people had to work harder to meet their basic needs. This was because, up until the Industrial Revolution, any gains in productivity farming peoples generated as a result of working harder, adopting new technologies, techniques, or crops, or acquiring new land were always soon consumed by populations that quickly grew to numbers that could not be sustained. As a result, while agricultural societies continued to expand, prosperity was usually only ever momentary, and scarcity evolved from an occasional inconvenience that foragers endured every once in a while to a near-perennial problem. In many respects, the hundreds of generations of farmers who lived before the fossil fuel revolution paid for our extended lifespans and expanded waistlines now by enduring lives that were mostly shorter, gloomier, and harder than ours, and almost certainly tougher than those of their foraging ancestors. Farmers before the fossil fuel revolution experienced greater difficulties than their foraging ancestors and modern people, because population growth compromised the benefits of agricultural productivity. Number 4. Contrary to common sense, memory and imagination may not be two independent processes. Our memory clearly relies on constructive processes that are sometimes prone to error and distortion. Daniel Schechter, a psychologist at Harvard University, named this aspect of memory constructive memory. When we remember, we piece together fragments of stored information under the influence of our current knowledge, attitudes, and beliefs. Imagination is also a process of piecing together fragments of stored information. If so, it would be more efficient for the brain to share a common constructive process for memory and imagination rather than maintaining two independent processes. From this perspective, it would not be surprising to learn that the hippocampus is involved in both memory and imagination. Although it is not favorable for remembering an event precisely as it happened, it is adaptive in that it enables past information to be used flexibly in simulating alternative future scenarios without engaging in actual behaviors. Memory and imagination rely on constructive processes in which the brain adjusts past information and models potential future events, suggesting they might not be separate processes since both involve the hippocampus.